Hey everybody, it's Bree here from the Sewing House. We're back with week 3 of our Valentine sew along, and this week is just the same as last week. We are making more heart blocks. So if you started with your light background, you're doing your hearts with your dark background, or vice versa. Exactly the same instructions as last week. So I'm going to take a break from talking about the heart blocks. You keep working on those, but I want to talk about all of these little cutoff pieces that you have after you sew the bottom corners of your hearts. Make sure that these are going in opposite directions as you're doing your hearts, so you won't have hearts. That's the only thing I'll say on doing your hearts. Now we're going to talk about all these leftover little tidbits, because with all of these, you're going to end up with a whole bunch of half square triangles. Last week we talked about sewing that extra seam, so they're already stitched for you. Now we're going to talk about things you can do with these. So with these, unless you know exactly what you're going to do and you plan all your seams accordingly, I'm going to recommend just pressing that seam open. That way, if you have a bunch meeting, you don't have to worry about a bunch of things stacking up. It'll just be a little easier down the road. So press those open, and then the fun starts. Then you get to trim all of these down. I ended up trimming mine to 2 1/4. I maybe could have gotten away with 2 1/2 inches on them, but some of them were a little bit short, so I decided to go safe and just trim them all down to 2 1/4, so they're all the same size. I have not trimmed all of them yet, but here's some of what I've got. So there's so many different ways you can lay half square triangles out. And because we have the 2 different background colors you can play, you could have like alternating diamond colors in the middle, and then you can have all of your fun bright K fabrics around the edges. You could do them in like diagonal rows with the colors, and we could have all sorts of fun with that. Something, you can play with triangles just as easily as I can, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on layout. This is going to be just a quick little video. A couple tools to help you trim these down to size. I'm going to recommend you use a small square ruler. Something like this. This is a 5 1/2 inch square, 4 1/2 inch square, just something small, something that's easy to manage. And make sure it has this diagonal line on it. As you're trimming these, you want to make sure that that seam stays right on that 45-degree line as you're trimming. So here I would cut here, trim those off, then I'd turn this around and I would trim it, get my cut edge wherever I'm going to line up, in my case 2 1/4, and trim there. But I'm making sure that seam stays on my diagonal line the whole time, so that I know that I've got my seam going right to the points, and I know that I've got it nice and even as I'm trimming it down to my finished size. So have fun with these. Don't stress about them either. Focus on finishing your blocks first, then come to these. This is something fun for you to play with on those days where you're like, I feel like sewing, but I don't know what to do. This is what you can do. Some ideas of things you can do with these. You could put them together, make some really cute matching pillows to go with your quilt when all is said and done. I've been having fun making a lot of bags recently. I can't claim credit for these ones. These ones were made by some of our other wonderful sample makers. But this is a new pattern we got in. This is called the Sun Patch Crossbody Bag by Minky Kim, and it is super cute, but it's got all these little squares in there. So why not use your half square triangle squares for those? I'm not sure exactly what size this calls for, but if this isn't the right size, you know what? You can just put them together until your piece is the size that you need for the outside of the bag, and it'll be totally fine. But something like that would be really, really cute. So she also has this divided double zip pouch, which is super cute. Also has that patchwork in there. Again, you just put your squares together until it's the size that you need for that patchwork portion of the bag. It's super cute. One more from her, because her patterns are so cute, are these little Flatmates pouch trio. This would be such a great little project bag to keep all of your bits and bobs together for as you are working on things. Again, patchwork background would be really fun with all your leftover half square triangles. Some other ideas. This is the clam up bag from By Annie's, and this one, they don't have it done in patchwork in the pattern. I think there's 5 different sizes in the pattern. Super fun pattern. This one's a little addicting, so be aware of that. But just like I was saying before, you just put your squares together until it's a big enough piece to do whichever size bag you wanted to do for your outside, and then you just use it like a regular piece of fabric. This is the patchwork duffel, another great option. There's just so many fun things you can do with all of these that you may as well do it while you're already sitting there and sewing them. So that's what we're talking about today. Finish up all of your hearts, and we will be back next week to start putting the little borders around them. And we'll see you then. Thank you.